All right, joining us now, Division III. We were at this game. Let's start it off with La Crosse, North Central Gym, and the spread I know was ridiculous. What was it, 20-something?
20, yep. And
Yeah.
I hit the against the spread bet. I did have La Crosse plus 20. So
Yes, absolutely. And I think, people expected more of a boat race than that one. Did not expect North Central's defense to give up that many points. And, to be honest, we watched it. It could have been worse. Like, especially early on in the game, we'll talk about a lot of it, man. But talk about being there in person to watch that. I mean, that was exciting to actually get there, to be there and experience it.
Yeah, great atmosphere, very warm crowd. Obviously, they're giving us drinks and tacos and all sorts of stuff at game day. So shout out to the La Crosse community for being so welcoming to us in that one. So that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely, dude. It was a blast, and they are a great fan base. Our setup there, right in the tailgate, was pretty cool. That was definitely a note that I had. Like, whenever we do this in the future, like, put us in the tailgate. Like, that's going to be a blast. We'll definitely have to figure out more of the timing and that kind of thing. But as far as the actual people there, it was fantastic. But talk about the game and what we saw early on. And I know something that we've talked a good bit about is one of those plays near the beginning that was kind of a 14-point swing, if you will, for them, dude. So talk about some of that.
Yeah, so, we kind of talked about during the pregame show that if La Crosse wanted to win this game, they were not going to turn the ball over. And we saw that the biggest play of the game was a La Crosse turnover. I think it was Gabe Lynch ran down to like the inch mark line, and the ball got punched up through the back of the end zone. And the next play, Joe Sacco ran like an 85-yard touchdown. So obviously, being that they turned the ball over, that was the most critical play of the game. I kind of lined up to our hypothesis, if you will, about how La Crosse could win. And, that was it right there. The 14-point swing, they lost by 13. So
yeah, that was huge. Talk about with the energy it felt like after that. Obviously the game wasn't over, but it felt like it, man. It was like it just took the breath, I think, out of just about everyone in that stadium. I had to feel like.
Then, fairly so. I mean, it would take the breath out of any stadium, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll pull up the clip here so we can watch it. And this is them driving down the field here. And this North Central offense was just dynamic all day. D'Angelo Hardy had one of the best games I've seen in person. You talk about some of the things he was able to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was our boy Cade. That was his key player. And I think Cade actually had the best pick for the key players in that one.
I would agree with that. When you have a receiving touchdown, an interception, kick return, and just insane.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this has ever been done before. So a kick return touchdown, an interception, a throwing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown, and 87 receiving yards. So,
the throwing touchdown was absurd. But that man right there, Kaiser Helterbrand, he had himself a day. I know on the drive back, we had talked about, there was a very clear cut, who the two of the best athletes on the field were in today. And it was number 2 in the maroon. And then D'Angelo Hardy was obviously one of them. A lot of other great players out there, but those two certainly separated themselves for me.
Yeah. And kind of backtracking to that really long Joe Sacco touchdown after that fumble. The most indicative play of the entire game for North Central, who they are as a program, was Luke Lanin. I know we're going to reiterate to say his name, Lanin, because we've been saying Lanin before. He flew down to about the opposite 10-yard line to make a touchdown block for Joe Sacco.
That was insane.
That was crazy. You saw that clip? That was wild.
So I've got the highlights up here, and we're coming down. So La Crosse driving down the field, 7-7, near the end of the first quarter. Great. Looks like to be a touchdown run here, but the ball is punched out on probably the half-yard line, squirts out of the end zone, ends up being a touchback. So you go, first of all, from touchdown to touchback, which is a drive killer. You can see the boys actually in the back of the end zone there. Now Sacco, wrapped up in the backfield, not once but twice, squirms out of it, jets down the sideline, and now here comes Lanin. There he is running down, and to make this block after the Sacco cutback, boom, right there. And wasn't it the best block in the world? No, but the fact that your quarterback is down
crushed,
on the other side of the field, even attempting to do that, I love it. I love it.
If you're like a salesman and you're advertising what North Central's program looks like, you're going to show people that clip of the quarterback flying down there to make a block. That's
dude.
A program-defining play right there, and that's kind of what they build their culture off of, just hustling and just no matter what, putting yourself in a position for the guy next to you, So.
Yeah, and I thought maybe after those first couple series that La Crosse's defense might settle in a little bit, but they certainly did struggle when it came to finishing tackles. Looked like they were going for a lot of turnovers. This pass to a wide open receiver, that one ended up getting called back for a holding penalty, and you can see the frustrations right there. But North
There,
Central would
Coach
go
Brad
on
Spencer
to
was
score.
not happy about that one. We had a
Dude.
up close and personal interaction with that dispute between him and the referee.
They'd go on to rush that one in, and that offensive line, that unit from North Central has been dominant all year. They were great in this one. I know we talked a lot about it on the pregame show, but seeing it in person, and yeah, they have great size, but it's not anything that's absurd. I don't believe that's the reason. I think they play as a really cohesive unit, and it helps when you have the skill players that they have to complement them.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, like you got to have skill position players to complement the O line, and also you got to have a good O line to complement the skill players. So it's just a tandem, if you will.
Yeah, dude, and oh my goodness, that D-Lo hit right there. D'Angelo Hardy, he sunned a couple kids out in that field, dude. There was not a defensive back trying to tackle that man one-on-one. We saw one of those truck sticks right there, and then here's Landon trying to make a push for the goal line. But yeah, on the outside, there were not a lot of dudes trying to tackle Hardy.
No.
It was.
I can't really blame him, if I'm going to be honest with you. That guy's a beast.
So. Yeah. Now, they will continue to have to go on the road, which is certainly an interesting piece. We continue to follow along with this Cardinal team, and we can talk about that Wartburg game. You, myself, Cade, I think a lot of people who cover this level of football had kind of locked in Whitewater to be the winner of that one, and unfortunately for them, that's just not what Wartburg had planned out. Talk about that one, dude.
No, yeah, especially because we did talk about, the spreads a little bit too. We called this one to be a very close game, and it was as advertised, 31-28. Whitewater had the early lead in this one, 14-3, and Wartburg stormed back, outscoring Whitewater 28-14 after the first quarter.
Unreal.
So Wartburg definitely had their foot on the gas with Niall McLaughlin tossing 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. Did have an interception, but, obviously Wartburg still ended up winning this football game. And it was due to their defense, if I'm going to be honest with you. The offense obviously put up 31, but Wartburg depended on their defense all year. And you hold a Whitewater team to only 28. You can hang your hats.
There's Whitewater striking first right there on the long touchdown pass. Yep. Not something we've seen a lot of. Alec Ogden has been very efficient for them, but he's not one to really fill the stat book. So I think an uncharacteristic way to start the game for Whitewater, but albeit a very great one. Those Wartburg black unis are so slick, by the way. Great pass right there in the middle of the field, and Wartburg's offense, like you talked about, they didn't strike first, but they struck often after that. And credit to their defense as well. I know we talked a lot about the ground and pound offense for Whitewater. I think that night defense in that front seven kind of answered the call there, if you would.
Yeah, certainly. And that's what we expected out of them. We expected Wartburg to, if they're going to make a push to beat Whitewater, is going to be about their defense. And, Wartburg had a pretty good game offensively as well. But, I would say they won that game because of their defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, now they get to host North Central. And, that's definitely a trip for them out there in Iowa, I do believe, correct?
Yep. Yes,
so a little bit different. We'll see if North Central can continue to be the road warrior. But there were a lot of explosive plays in this one, and a lot of them came from the team in purple. You see another kind of a long pass right there, and it was just not the Whitewater squad, that, at least offensively, that we're used to seeing. And when they go up here a couple scores, it was when the score first got announced over the PA at the lacrosse game, people were like, oh, shit, you know what I mean? And as the game went on and it kept closer and closer and closer, Whitewater goes for an onside kick attempt right here and get it, already up 14-3, which is a ridiculously gutsy move. It certainly paid off. They get the possession right there, and then couple plays later, that one probably should have been picked off. But again, kudos to Wartburg. There's not a lot of teams that could have been down early like that and bounced back to get a quality win.
Yep, and that's what happens when you're well coached. The coach keeps the guys composed, he keeps them level-headed, and when you go down, that's when it's most important to have a really good head coach, and you saw that on Saturday. So
absolutely. And the finish, 24-21, and this thing kind of coming down seemingly to the last minutes. Whitewater would score one to put them ahead. And then it was on Wartburg to respond. And I think those are kind of the moments that playoff football comes down to. When you get the ball on your own side of the field, you have to drive down, make something happen. So I wanted to kind of show that drive for the Knights and what that entailed here. And it just felt like play after play, they had to make a play. Here's 4th and 4. On the drop back, they convert over the middle, and one of the biggest receptions of the day. Nice spin move, and he busts this one for quite a large chunk of yards. It felt like it was all Whitewater, and they had him 4th down, and then boom, hit this play, and it swings the pendulum to the total other side. And all the momentum right there, they just continued to drive and punch it in. A minute 40 left, and you're encroaching on the red zone on your own field. Like, This is exactly what playoff football is about. You see the sideline, the energy, diving for the pylon, and there it is, man. Like, I think he might have been just short there, and they end up punching it in. Yes, here we go, right here. But do you get a chance to look at those black uniforms for the Knights, dude?
Yeah, those are sweet. Those are wicked.
Badass. So,
Yeah.
student section, that environment over there, definitely going crazy, and they it's warranted. It certainly is. But talk about, I know you want to talk about that Johns Hopkins game a little bit and how Randolph-Macon came in there and really took it to him. It was a very competitive game, but kind of stopped him on the ground.
Yeah, we kind of emphasized before this one that these were the two run-heavy offenses that were going to be playing each other, and it was pretty much that way. Randolph-Macon ran for 255 yards after running for 388 last week. So, that playoff rushing yard total just keeps going up and up for them.
Yep.
Putting up 39 points on a pretty solid Johns Hopkins defense is a pretty daunting task, and that's exactly what they did. They followed through, put some pretty good numbers up on that scoreboard. And then Johns Hopkins, their identity was also running the football, and they still scored 36 points, but they only ran for 122 yards.
Man.
So definitely when your bread and butter isn't really clicking, you might have a little bit of trouble on offense. And being that they still scored 36, I think if they run for maybe 150 or 200, they win this football game.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And, credit to Johns Hopkins when their ground game wasn't exactly superb early on. You see a quick early 3-0 lead for them here. They went to the air, and they started to get them some things done, which at times has been inconsistent for them this year. So adjusting the game plan, you'll see right here, he drops one in a bucket down here on the right sideline, and there it is, a great grab. And Johns Hopkins was just trying everything, because at this point, on your own field and against a really quality opponent, or excuse me, that's Randolph-Macon, I'm totally backwards, but both these teams trying to adapt and get something out of it because they know the game plan. They've been studying the film all week. They did a great job of that. But how about the ending? I'm not there on the highlights yet, but we can certainly talk about the way this one ended, which was just a great summary of how this game was expected.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. When you have an ending like that, when you're anticipating something to be such a great game and you get that, it's just what everyone wants to see.
The final play with Randolph-Macon on the road, they've got to run their kicking team out onto the field, and I'll bring it forward to that because, you can certainly check out the other highlights if you would like. But with the fourth quarter winding down, Randolph-Macon, they're tied at 36 apiece. And here we go. 20 seconds left. The ball getting spotted. The clock ticking down. Randolph-Macon no timeouts, so they run the kickoff team on there, the field goal unit. Now we're at 10 seconds. The clock tick, tick, tick. They get the snap off with about 8 to go. It's almost blocked, and it's through the uprights. Barely. Barely. If, my depth perception is off, but it almost looked like it wasn't. But it was good. Randolph-Macon with the equivalent of a walk-off. Now, obviously, they've got to still kick it and finish out the game. But, what a ridiculous finish for the Yellow Jackets. We talked a lot about them. And shout out to Frank Rossi as well. I've got a great angle. He was at the game from the In the Huddle podcast. I wanted to pull up his angle of the... I'll cut the audio on it because they are getting loud over there. But I wanted to show his angle here of the field goal unit getting on the field. And, dude, these are just playoff football. This is the best kind of environment here on the road. Knock this one through. There's a great view of it going through the uprights. And the boys just erupt. So now they get the matchup against Cortland. And I would assume they're probably going to be favorites in that one, being able to finally host.
Yeah, and I don't think Cortland has any problem with being an underdog. They were a little bit of an underdog last week, and you saw on the show that I picked Alma to win by 2 scores, and I was dead wrong. Zach Boyce tossing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he told me not so fast, similarly to he told me on the show, Kobe. And I had to go with Alma just because they had that huge win last week. But like you said, when you have an emotional win like that, you kind of maybe have some a drop in maybe some intensity with that next game. I don't know. But
it's tough too, because at a point like that, you got to think even though maybe you wouldn't admit it after a game like that where you've accomplished now more than any Alma team in history, and you're looking at it and you almost feel like you've reached the summit. And again, whether I'm sure they were still dialed in, they were ready to play. They came ready to play. They scored over 40 points in that game. It's not like they had a bad game, but it just in the back of their minds, they almost had this feeling of, we've kind of done it, and it's hard to get yourself out of that state and really prepare the same way for another opponent the next week.
Yeah, especially when your defense have been performing so well all year, and you hold the Mountain Union team to 20 points, and you come out and give
Yes,
up
man.
58. It's just like, ugh. Like you're not
That's
going to
yeah.
win a lot of games when you give up that many points. Even if you do score 41, like that's just still far short of your 58 points you gave up.
Yeah, especially like you said, I didn't even think about it in that context, coming off such a great defensive performance against Mount Union, and then to go on your home field against Cortland and struggle, I think is, albeit like maybe a little bit of an exaggeration,
Yeah.
but understatement. But yeah, but again, their offense did an incredible job as well. And Carter St. John, you did predict would have a great day. We kind of knew that. We've seen him play at a great clip all year, but Zach Boys and that offense were lights out. And when it came down to the second half, I think that was certainly the that was certainly the decider, because you look at the end of the first or the second quarter, and both teams already have 30 points. And what the hell?
Yeah, that was nuts. I was just looking to find the spreads for next week, and they're actually not up quite yet, unfortunately. But if I had to guess, I'll do like a guess the spread right now for these next two games. I think North Central is going to be around like minus 16 or 17 against Wartburg. And I think Randolph-Macon's going to be like a 5-point favorite against Cortland.
I don't think that's ridiculous. Yeah.
I could. I'm trying to like match up that spread, like kind of how the lacrosse game was. And then obviously the cross covered that spread pretty easily. So, I mean, we probably shave a couple points off that 20 from last week. But, I mean, we'll see.
And I mean, you're talking about the national semifinals.
Also at home. Yeah.
No, this one in the first half was incredibly back and forth. We're starting to get into some of the bigger plays here. But you go into halftime tied up at 34-34. And that's just insane to me. But Cortland came out firing in the second half. They would go up 2 scores and then kind of just maintain that lead till the end. So I think the biggest stretch of the game was that first maybe 5 minutes coming out of the second half when Cortland was able to get up and get ahead and retain that. And I know a lot of teams talk about the couple minutes going into halftime, a couple minutes coming out of halftime being super big momentum shifters.
Yep.
And, kudos to Cortland. They did a great job of capitalizing on that, and they weren't afraid to take a lot of shots. See Boys there complete another pass to the outside. But the finish was not exactly maybe as crazy as the Randolph-Macon game, but there were certainly a boatload of highlights throughout this one.
Yeah, this whole weekend was action-packed. A lot of these games delivered as some really fun games. So.
Yeah, I think there were some I'll have to pull it up because I'm blanking on the numbers, but I believe there were some new record holders for Cortland, one of them being Boys at quarterback, but there were a couple others that kind of set their mark in this most recent contest. And here we are right here, and I'll have us take a look at these ones, if I can give that a read right there. Wi-Fi, there we go. JJ Lapp, a guy on the outside for them we've talked about a ton. He's had some great performances. 10 catches, 172 yards, and a touchdown. He's now Cortland's career leader with 31 touchdown catches. That's a stat right there. You keep going throughout this list offensively for them. And then you go here, Joe Aidavayo, and he caught 7 passes for 82 yards, 3 tuds. That ties the school single game record for touchdown receptions held by numerous players. So he becomes part of that kind of elite company over there for the Red Dragons. And then you've got out of the backfield, Jaden, he had quite a game, ran the ball 28 times, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, only the second player in school history with at least 3,000 career rushing yards. Now, Zach, when he came here on the podcast a little bit earlier, or a couple weeks ago, I should say, he talked a lot about this man, what they've been able to do in the backfield and how that makes his job a lot easier to enable him to do things like this, Jimmy. 24 for 33, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
Yeah, man. He's definitely got some thank you letters to write to his offensive lineman, too.
Yes, too. Or some thank you gifts. Oh, my God.
Maybe like them all like watches or cars or something.
Yeah, I don't know if he got that kind of NIL, but yeah. He established the school's single-season records with 3,392 passing yards and 36 passing touchdowns.
He's having a hell of a year. Hopefully he continues that stretch next week, too.
Yeah, no, I assume this Cortland team is going to continue to light up the scoreboard. I assume so. But I think a little bit of a tougher ask defensively for Randolph-Macon this week, albeit a little bit of a different approach to the offense, man. But It'll be exciting. Like we had talked about before we went on, I think we'll do something, whether it be probably Saturday morning before these games kind of kick off, just do a little live piece, do some game picks, talk about the games, and it might not be a game day piece, or on location, but it'll still be a pretty fun thing.
Yeah, man, let's do it. Let's lock it in, baby.
Sweet. Anything else you got for me?
No, I think we covered it all.
I think we did, man. Like I said, I'll reiterate like how fun it was there to be at the game. To like just, we always talk about recapping the games, watching highlights, looking at box scores is one thing, man. But when you can have the chance to be there and feel the actual energy in the stadium, lacrosse showed out. That stadium, I don't know why I didn't have like crazy high expectations, but whatever I had was kind of blown away. They filled that up and it was pretty loud in there.
I tried telling you, man, Roger Herring Stadium gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. They had a nice setup over there. And I thought maybe because I didn't think it was very enclosed, but it kind of was actually, which definitely helped them out.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
All right, Jim. I appreciate you, dude. We'll get you back on your Saturday for some game picks.
Yes, sir. All right. See you then.
Sweet. See you, buddy.